Roll call?
Bob Zurich,
Present.
John Freitag,
Here.
Bob Klippel,
Here.
Kevin Creedy, Tessie Steffens,
Here.
Sparky Stuckenschneider,
Here.
Jeannie Miller Wood, Dave Waymeyer,
Here.
Betty Werner, Gavin Woolley,
Here.
Al Bear,
Here.
Jeff Packey.
Approval of the minutes from our July 12th meeting?
Note one correction, I was in attendance. It does not say that I was.
Ah,
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll get that corrected.
okay.
I can vouch for John if.
Yeah,
I remember.
I remember, too, yeah.
I think you had
Yeah.
the previous
Oh, yeah, we
list.
had.
We didn't have it
Yeah.
one
Yes.
yet.
Everybody was there.
Everybody was here. It was an unusual thing. I remember that, yes. Congratulations, John, for being here when you weren't here. Okay.
I make a motion, we approve the corrected minutes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Gavin, second by Tessie. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, we do the Parks report?
All right, I'll start off with staffing. We're one full-time employee short now, soon to be two on Monday. We have an employee that's transferring to a different department. However, we had an interview with a young man this week, second interview today, and I'm planning on offering him the job, probably when we get out of this meeting. And then hopefully he might start towards the end of this month. So, but then we'll still be one short. And so, that led into some issues with the fair, not having enough staff. We're one full-time staff person short. And then we had no seasonals this year, no college kids. We couldn't get any temps from the temp service. So last year, between temps and the seasonal people, we had 5 total extra non-full-time people. And this year we had 0. However, Darren and I and Shauna, the HR director, put our heads together and we put out an offer to other departments' full-time staff, so water, street, landfill, and offered overtime to work the fair. And we had, I think, 5 or 6 people from different departments do that, so that helped out. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to keep up with all the people, especially on Friday. It was just crazy. Projects, so we're still cleaning up from the fair. We in good shape. By the end of this week, we'll have most of them, about 90% of it completed. Then we'll move on to projects, which will be the 2 donated mini pavilions at the dog park, getting those installed and concrete pads poured. And then Miller Post Trail installation will begin again this early fall. And then we just had a meeting with our owner's rep, Egan, to get the auditorium roof and tuck pointing done. That will be, the bid opening will be on August 31st, so that's going out to bid here shortly, and that'll be in the paper. And that's the foam roof over the auditorium and insulation, and then tuck pointing the whole building, which needs it very badly. And now that the fair's over, we are also going to be, I have a meeting tomorrow with a company to get the pickleball line courts painted on the new pavilion at the fairgrounds, and we're going to paint some basketball line courts at the fairgrounds and Optimus, just like a 3-point arc and a free throw line. But those will have to be power washed and cleaned before we do that, but that's on the list to get going. Skate park features will be installed. They're supposed to be here September 21st and 22nd to install the 7 skate park features. And I'm happy to announce that we have 15 benches paid for, and the order went out today or yesterday, and it's 8 to 10 week lead time. So this fall we'll be installing benches on bench pads. So we got 15 of them to install. And then finally, I talked to Mike Lapardis with WSA, and he has no report on the soccer shed. I think things have kind of stalled out a little bit on that, so. Any questions?
No questions?
Oh, I
Thank-
do have. Are most of the benches, locations been determined?
Well, the ones we ordered were basically all 4 of the open spots we had down on both the east and west trail. Now I'm looking, I had the intern go around, we have a number of benches. Oh, and there's one at at Lakeview Park. We contacted, thank you for the number. We were able to get a hold of the softball person.
Oh, yeah.
And the relative decided he didn't want the bench.
Right,
And so
right.
we're gonna remove that one, which is in bad shape anyways, and the youth baseball softball organization wanted to place one there, so we were able to get one ordered for him. They paid, and we were able to get one ordered for them. So now, to answer your question, we're looking at current benches that are already in place that are in bad condition. Some of them don't even have tags on them anymore. Most of them are up around soccer, Lakeview Soccer, that area up there, and the lake. They were the first ones installed like 1995. So the intern was out taking pictures. We actually put the locations of I think he got all of them, or pretty much all of them. All of our current bench locations in GIS, so it'll be on a map, and we'll be able to access them from the city website and things like that. We have, he's also doing that with memorial trees. He was out this week plotting all those into GIS. But right now, so the next phase, I guess, in my mind is I'll look at these old ones. He created a list of, our last intern went out and plotted all the benches in GIS, and I had a whole list of questions for her. What's the condition? Is the pad in good shape? Blah, blah, blah. And the ones that are in fair or poor condition, he pulled out and gave me an Excel sheet, and I'm gonna go out and look at them and see which ones we can start with on replacing. And then offering, as people come forward, then I think there may be a few people on the list that they didn't contact yet, because we're out of spots down there. But as people come forward, then we can say, well, we got a spot here that's open, that a bench is in bad shape, are we removed already and needs to be replaced, that type of thing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. Any other questions? Communications from the audience? Just me. No, Casey's back there. You have anything, Mayor?
I'm glad the fair's over, like everybody else. About restart limit, with the exception of Friday, when we went over that. Infrastructure, police, CMS, they were all over the wall. And so, I think everybody knows that, and plan for it in the future, everyone knows that. But somehow, again, we pulled it off.
Yeah.
And, I haven't seen the final numbers yet, but it looks promising. So, thank you for all you guys did too, especially Wayne and his crew, my gosh.
It's hard to get through all those people with the trash trailer and all that stuff.
Wayne, got a question. I know, because of all the rain and stuff like this, did it do any major damage to the fields around there that they're not been able to be repairable?
Most of the park properties, okay, because they weren't parking on it to begin with, because it was too muddy earlier in the week. There's some of the lots across the street there, I think, are in rough shape, and we avoided mishap like we had last year, where the tractor trailers for the motorsports parked on Barklage Field, and we battled ruts from that all last fall and this spring. And we finally got it where it was level, but to get it back to playing shape where the balls wouldn't bounce up and hit kids in the face, we had to roll it, and now that we rolled it, it's too compacted and we can't aerate it. And we aerate it, it breaks the tines on the aerator. But because of all the wet ground, they had a alternate plan on not parking on that field, which worked out, but I think there's probably some safety issues with that plan too, so we probably need to look at that, rethink that plan too. So seemed like we had a lot of things this year going against us. We had the record crowd, and then lots of rain and muddy ground, and then thunderstorm warning in the middle of Friday night, and then tornado warning or whatever it was after that. And so, but like the mayor said, we pulled it off. Everyone pulled it off, and seems to be in good shape.
So the park itself, Fair Board kind of takes that on, they'll wait a couple weeks and at least one rain again, which we're already having again,
Yeah.
before they start cleaning that up. But, you know, there's a lot of mulch that has to come up and then a lot of grass seed that has to go down in the park itself.
Sure.
That'll be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And usually that's a Dave Brockman and Steve Sullentrop thing now, where they go and take care of that this fall, so.
They've actually pulled a lot of the mulch out of there already.
Yeah, I think
That, yeah, as much as was there, that had to be done, I'm sure, because it was day after day after
Right.
day of spreading that, unfortunately, but.
probably the midway area up there is the roughest part of the ground, just because
Yeah.
of all the people and the when they pull out, when the carnival pulls out and stuff like that. And so I think there's some grading issues up there too we need to look at too, possibly with all this water. We noticed a lot of standing water, and I don't think the water could drain properly, so we may have to, while it's torn up right now or in bad shape, maybe possibly address that sooner rather than later and correct it for the future, maybe.
On the bright side, some of the best looking grass out there was the stuff that was sodded.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That actually held in pretty darn nice. It had been watered the whole time and had some good roots. The rest of it kind of went away pretty quick in the first night.
yeah.
It held up well.
Surprisingly, it did.
Yeah, it got fluffed up yesterday just so it could get air, and we knew the rain was coming and everything, so.
Any
More questions?
Nothing else? Okay, old business, the RTP grant.
So I think at the last meeting, I knew about the meeting. We had a second round meeting with the DNR representative that manages these grants, and it's looking very favorable that we will possibly receive this grant. I'm not saying for sure, they didn't say for sure, but we'll know in October, if not before that. But she needed, I think it was 5 additional documents. I got all of them to her. And so now it's just really, we answered all the questions, I think, correctly, and so now it's just kind of wait and see. But usually if you make it to the second round, your chances are very high. So that's good news.
The RTP is the Riverfront Trail?
Yes, the trail connection, the east and west trail connection through Riverfront Park.
And any other questions on that one? The MDC cap agreement?
I think I mentioned this one too. DNR, or Department of Conservation sent me an agreement for the lake, and I looked through it. Had some wording in there that was not valid for our location. I sent them back some edits. They sent the agreement. I basically have supplied all the information that they need at this point. They sent my edits and all the paperwork to Jeff City. Their Jeff City team's looking at it. They'll send it back to me. When I get back, then I will send it to you guys. You guys can look through it, then it'll go to council, and then hopefully be approved. So that's where we're at with that. That one's looking very likely too, and that'll, in the short term, give us some good indications on fish quality and things like that. But in the long term, I think be able to help us out with some capital improvement, possibly help out with some capital improvement projects at the lake, stabilization and things like that. So.
Very good. New business, Town and Country Fair update. Do you think we've
Well, I
already
kind
done that one?
of, unless you guys have any more questions about that, I'll skip over that one.
Memorial Brick Program locations.
I our intern was out taking some pictures, so you asked me to come back with some, possible locations, and so there's not, so what I was trying to do is find locations where we already had for the most part, already had concrete in place and try not to take out any new green space. And so that's what we came up with these pictures. I don't know if you guys had any chance to get out in the parks and look around or not, but this first one's at Krog Park, there at the Veterans Memorial. So it'd go from the Fifth Street sidewalk there to the memorial. The second one is also at Krog Park. It's the one we kind of discussed last time. The sidewalk or the paver path that would come off of the Fifth Street sidewalk, go down to the Lucinda Owens Memorial. No sidewalk there now, or that would be taking up a little green space there. And that is a gradual downhill slope. And then the other one, I think I came up with at the end of our last meeting, but hadn't really looked at it, is at the Flag Plaza at Riverfront Park. So these are two areas that I identified. Flag Plaza probably needs sprucing up anyways. It's pretty dated. This is, the first page here is on top, or where the flowers are, I should say, is a pretty large area. However, you do see memorial paver, I'll call it patio, around monuments and things like that. And I mean, it seems to be like that would be a good fit in that area. And then this last page would be the walkway up to that monument from the parking lot. I didn't do the whole sidewalk there where it says Riverfront Flag Plaza wording, because that area, some of that is going to be taken out when they do, if we get the trail grant. The ADA access and stuff, that'll all be graded out there, and that sidewalk will change a little bit through there. But there will still be a sidewalk through there, so you could do from the sidewalk leading up to the memorial.
You know, when I look at that first picture right there going to that Veterans Stone there, I keep thinking to myself, I guess because I'm a veteran myself, but that would be ideal for the different veteran organizations around here to put our local veterans' names, you know, in there. I think that would be a really nice gesture. I don't know.
And we could do some, this is another area of the park, this Veterans Memorial is pretty dated too, and it needs to be redone. I think that's a good idea, Bob, but we could probably, I don't have anything budgeted for it. It's a idea that I would like to do, a project I would like to do sometime in the near future. And I think we probably could incorporate that brick idea into a new, like a redesign of this area.
Okay,
Probably closer to the monument, maybe.
sure.
I do think that it would be best if we would leave that for veterans. You know what I mean? As far as
Yeah.
pavers in with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, one of my relatives' name leading up to the Veterans Memorial, who is not a veteran.
Mike Carey.
Since our last meeting, I looked down at the Flagpole Plaza too, and like you said, it's a pretty big area. I think we're gonna, you know, knock on wood, we're gonna get the Riverfront Trail grant, and we're gonna rearrange things. I think it's the perfect time to make that Flag Plaza, whether it's a raised or whatever, a patio, whatever it may be, for a place for those bricks. I think that's a perfect spot. Anybody who's, you know, anybody in Washington is gonna be willing to put a brick down there in that area. I think the Crow Park thing, like you said, is just between the Marine War Veterans Memorial, who's, you know, they're just, some families aren't gonna feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I'm not a veteran. I don't think I deserve to be on the walkway going there.
I'm in agreement with you on that.
And I just think, Wayne, for our sake, we're gonna tear that up down there, and we're gonna redo that.
That area or the flat, what I have identified here, that won't be torn up with the, I think I know what you're saying though, but that area will be, I mean, this won't be up there on the hill, because it sits up there. And it won't be torn up, but I see what you're saying. I mean, we could do it in conjunction.
Well,
And I think, I don't know if this will work. Someone mentioned, I don't know if it was someone here or if it was Chad or what, but next spring, I think they kind of keep changing it on me, in 2024, Amtrak's supposed to redo the platform at the passenger depot. And one of the things that they're going to do is, and it's by our request, because we have a lot of issues, that patio behind the passenger depot, I mean, it's a large section of pavers. And it actually also went over to the caboose, and you notice when we redid that area over to the caboose, we took out the pavers and put in concrete, just because of the moles, and it's constantly, there's some bad spots in it right now, I think. It's constantly going like this. They're gonna take out all the pavers, and they're gonna put in stamped concrete that looks like pavers, but they told us the pavers are ours, the city, I guess, paid for them at one time, and they'll stack them up on pallets. We may be able to use some of those pavers as filler, to fill in this area, because it's a large area. So I'm looking into that. If we would do that area, it might be an option to.
Any idea, I'm sorry, go- any idea how many brick the area around the flagpoles would accommodate?
Oh, I have no idea. I was lucky to get these pictures taken before I left and came back to the fair and everything.
I think it's a pretty big area.
It's
Yeah.
a large area, very
If
large.
you take the papers behind the depot and line the outside and with 2 or 3 feet, and then
Yeah.
inside of that could be brick pavers with names or potential,
Yeah.
I think if you, to brick this whole entire thing with possible name bricks.
It's gonna take a while.
Oh, it's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a,
Good,
Some
we
kind of
want it to
edging
take
or
a
whatever,
while.
something like that where you're gonna cut this in half would probably be our best.
'Cause that's what we did at the Angel of Hope. I wasn't here for that, but they put in all the blank
Right.
bricks. And now as someone buys one, they take the blank brick out and put in the stamp one.
And I do think we want a large area that, because it,
Oh, right, yeah.
so this program can last longer than 5 years or whatever.
Which one do you recommend, right, Wayne?
I reckon, I like the Flag Plaza, the one. I do
too.
I
think
tend to
we
agree
could
with you.
enjoy
It's,
sitting
it's,
up there, looking at the river, we could redo where the bench locations are and things like that.
and there's always somebody down in the Riverfront Park. It's very busy all the time, that, to me.
Very high traffic area for people that walk, exercise, see the riverfront. There's so much going on down there, and it just kind of adds to it,
Jeff, you mentioned, possibly having that, a raised area. I think that, is not a real good idea to where you keep it level to where you can walk it and read the individual names.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, the paper's level, whether you have flowers or something like that.
Okay, a retaining wall type thing around it. Okay.
You want to be able to walk on it.
All right, so you think
Well,
Flag Plaza is the location you all?
I think that's,
We need a vote, or you're pretty much in
do you,
agreement?
do you-
Sounds like you guys are in
motion.
agreement.
I make a motion that we make that the area for putting the pavers.
well, we have a motion from Bob D. and a second from, Jeannie Miller Wood. When you get to be, when you get,
Girl over there.
okay, when you get to be 81, these things happen, guys.
Can we just call you Mitch?
Yeah, okay. Anyway, we have, all in favor? Thanks, Jeannie.
Mick Jagger's 80.
Yeah, well, I'm older than him.
Oh, my God, you guys.
Yeah, that is.
We've been friends a long time.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments about that particular? Okay, the marijuana sales tax update?
So administration, or the city administrator, Darren, has approached me, and his idea that he approached council with for the marijuana sales tax money was to fund a park maintenance worker, and so this would be after October 1, when the new fiscal year starts. Park maintenance worker, a new park maintenance worker position, and approximately $50,000 or so for a park-specific master plan, to give us some detail, plans, ideas, knowledge going into the next capital improvement sales tax in '26, I think it is, on possible projects and where we stack up and things like that. And so Councilman Packey had mentioned it in the July meeting, and then when Darren gave his update on budget, and then on Monday again, when Darren gave the same or additional update on the budget, Jeff asked if we could talk about it here at this meeting. And so I had already, that day, I was due to vacation and the fair and a lot of other things. I was late on getting the packet out, but I had included this benefits of a park master plan, just so we could all start thinking about it and have an idea. It's something that probably most of you, not all of you, hadn't been a part of in the past, but I know some of you have been. So these were some just benefits that Logan and I found online, and then kind of more generic ones, and then I have some specific ones of kind of what the city, myself and the city would be looking to get from a park-specific master plan, mostly related to the condition, evaluation, inventory, analysis of existing facilities, and then funding. You know, are they funded? What's the cost to maintain these facilities now and in the future? And do we have, you know, what are our existing revenue sources? You know, general fund and grants and things like that. And then, are we short anywhere? And if we are short, how short are we on funding? And then, if we are short, what's our options? What kind of funding options do we have? And strategies for those funding options. And then same thing with capital improvement projects, funding strategies for those two, other than the tax that we have now. So, you know, there's a lot of good things that come out. It's not, you know, they're not going to just tell you one specific thing. I like that it will help me when I have organizations come to me, which just happened on Monday, actually, after the council meeting, or during the council meeting. It says, I got an idea, I'd like to do this project. Well, it would, a prioritized plan with goals will give me feedback or information to tell that person, like, okay, that's a good idea, but right now the city is focused on these projects because they're in our park master plan. There's identified by, you know, surveyed by the residents. They wanted these options or these facilities or whatever it may be. However, your idea is not bad, but maybe we can fit it in, maybe not right now, but in the future, that type of thing. It'll give us operational cost projections, maintenance projections, staffing projections, like an organizational review. That's something I'm kind of interested in. Employee workload analysis. Do we have the right people in the right positions doing the right things? And then our organizational structure. Do we have enough people where we need them, and who's doing the work, who's doing the administrative work, that type of thing. It will benefit. Our master plans will benchmark us against national statistics. We looked at some of that when the marijuana tax was, I guess, being proposed to be put on the ballot. Some of those stats came out then. They could do a comparative, it could compare Washington against other local St. Louis area cities of similar size to see how we stack up and where we're ahead, where we're short. Give us overall budget recommendations. Good thing, we kind of all saw this with the grant. It'll survey or at least get citizen input on what they want. You know, we saw that firsthand with the RTP grant, where I worked with engineering and we had that trail connection going straight across in front of the pavilion, all the way across that hillside to the east trail, and someone, Betty, or I don't know who it was actually, but someone brought it up about curving it back towards the restroom to leave that side of the park more passive. I thought that was really, really neat that came out of that meeting. It'll give us some help with rec programming. What should we doing? What should we be doing? What should we not be doing? What does the Y do? What, you know, where's the shortfall there? What do people want? The actual residents. You know, we got a lot of new people moving in town. What do they want to see from the Parks Department regarding programming? And then also this is one of my key things. You could do conceptual, not for all the parks, but specific parks. Say the old sand plant lot area down there that everyone talks about. Isn't there an amphitheater supposed to go up down there? It could give you a conceptual plan for that area based on citizen input and things like that. You know, there's several other smaller areas in the park system I'd like to get some input on too, on is this area underutilized? How can we make it more utilized? That type of thing. And the biggest thing is if we had time, we could do this, we could do a park master plan in-house. That happens, people do that, but it would be a bias. I was telling someone this before the meeting, it could be biased. If I really like the Riverfront Park, I can just write in there that I want all the funding and all the money and all the staffing to go towards Riverfront Park. Where this would be an unbiased review of the park system. So that's all I got on that. I'm sure you guys have questions, comments.
The master plan, are we talking a 10-year, 20-year?
Nothing's been determined.
Nothing's
It
been
just-
determined?
Darren wanted to put some money towards it.
Right, right. Well, I think it's a great idea. And I've been off and on the park board since the 80s. And we have paid in the past to have master plans completed. And they brought the things that, you didn't have to necessarily do everything that they suggested, but it got public involved, which I thought was really a positive, and support for different things that we wanted to do. It helped us in the very beginning with some of the half-cent sales tax and programs, and like when we moved the tennis courts and just, you know, utilizing spaces and what was good about it. And I think that it brings a new entity in to look at our system and to look at our parks and to look at our city, and the end document can be utilized by so many in our park system. And I just think it's a great idea. I mean, I'm for it. I think we should do it. And we asked for that marijuana tax to be used to help with our parks. And the first thing, of course, besides help, would be to have a plan like this that would guide us and guide our directors and our personnel and whatever to do what they need to do to keep our parks the way we want them and what we can add to them. And that's what we went to ask people when they voted. I mean, I didn't specifically say master plan, but that was the idea, so that we would have some things to go by.
I know Pacific did one in 2020, and it was by a local St. Louis firm, and it was about $39,000. And that firm looked at, I guess they have 6 parks, I think, and that looked at all 6 parks. And not all, I read the article in the paper, I'm not sure what all went into it, but it was I think a 10-year master plan. And I think it's suggested to have a park master plan, to update it every 10 to 15 years.
Yep.
In July, at our budget meeting in the city council, it was brought to our attention at that time that Darren suggested we do one. And my initial conversation, or my initial comment was, why pay $50,000 to tell them we need a park tax? So this is a lot different than we need a park tax or not. So again, I may have quoted right, quoted wrong, whatever, and I apologize to Wayne, we never had a conversation beside it, but when it was first brought to my attention, it's like, what are we gonna get out of this? So my first initial reaction was, why do we want to spend $50,000 for that? We know what we need, we know what we have. This is a lot more in-depth and a lot more helpful to Wayne and as a department as a whole. So I'm not against it, and I think that's fine, but I'm sure I was quoted in saying, we don't need that.
Well, you know, and it might tell us we need a park tax, and that might be something we have to look at, but it's gonna tell us so much more than just that. And it's gonna tell us how you use your facilities, what you might need to add to your facilities, growth, or maybe there is no more growth, or, you know, it's gonna give us so much insight, and it does help get grants.
Right. Well,
I mean, and that's a big deal.
Wayne said it in a couple times, it's an unbiased approach.
Yes.
And for me, it's more of a take the blinders off approach. You know, we know what we have at the fairgrounds, that we have at the riverfront, that we have at parks, but a third party,
That makes a big difference.
Anyone else from St. Louis is gonna appreciate what we have, like we do, but a third party unbiased opinion on what we have may be
Yep.
and what we need.
You,
Yeah.
you look today at the way Phoenix Center Park is used. We're walking down there 3-4 times a week. The amount of activity that's down there is incredible. Now, what happens when that gets connected to Rabbit Trail and all that from the Coke Farm has access to that? I mean, it might not be enough room at that
Yeah.
point. So there's a ton of activity that goes on down there.
Now,
I think one thing, I think if you got a group together and look at the pros and the cons of having a master plan, I can't think of a con. I can't think of a reason we shouldn't have one.
I think Jeff nailed the only con, and it's the price tag.
Sure.
Yeah, well,
You know, we're talking about another full-time employee that you're gonna give up for a year in order to do this. Is
Right.
basically, the way it was presented to us is, do you want 2 more park employees, or do you want 1 in this? That's how it was presented to us.
That's how I came up with my comment in July. Just what
So
Alex
we've been
said.
fighting to fill those positions already. We already are having discussions about what can we do to fill those entry-level positions, and here's an opportunity that we might be able to throw some money there, or, you know,
What-
here's the fork in the road. My question, Tessie, is when was the last one done, do you know?
Oh, well, that was done in-house.
2012, done
In-house.
in
That was
house.
in-house. I would think, I'm not
Yep.
sure, I think it was in, like the late
I
90s.
think there was one,
I know we,
90,
I want to say, now I'm going to guess, but I'm going to say like 95 or 96.
and if you guys want.
It was like a 10-year, and I know there was one done in the 80s.
This is the one that right now is online too, that you can
Right,
get online.
right.
That was
And that was
2012.
2012.
That was
Yeah.
in-house,
It was done in-house.
right.
Dunk-
Oh, Brian,
Darren Dunkel.
was it Brian?
Dunkel.
Not
Oh, Darren Dunkel.
It's on the first page.
Darren Dunkel, I think.
Yeah, it's written on the first page.
Darren was hired when I was here, after 13. But
Darren Dunkel,
Yeah, Darren Dunkel, yeah,
Darren was on there?
yep.
yeah.
now, would
And I
this,
know we did one before that. I mean, before Darren. I mean, it was like Brian, it wasn't Brian, wasn't Jerry. Who came after Jerry?
Peterson.
Well, I know, but I was involved in almost all of them, so I should remember the name. But there isn't really a con.
No.
Now, I will say
I
this. so
understand
I
what
am-
you're saying.
I am curious. So the marijuana sales overall in the state has been very good, okay? And so I'd have no idea what our tax revenue or how much money we're looking at for
We can
Washington.
project whatever we want, but we won't know for a year, is what it comes.
Okay, so when you were presented with, here's 2 employees or a master plan, that you're going off a number that you really, nobody's really saying what the number is,
Yeah, and there's other
Correct.
pieces that go into that too, yes.
right? Okay,
Well, $50,000 is basically a entry-level position in the Parks Department, so that equals up.
right, I get that,
Or a worker.
but, so I'm just,
We
but,
don't know if we can hire 1 or 2 or 3 workers, or
well, I get it, but in my mind, as a person who helped promote this marijuana tax, saying that in my mind, like 2/3 would go to the park and 1/3 would go to
Communications.
communications. I'm just trying to figure out an estimated dollar figure. I don't want to short communications any, but I also, want a fair amount or whatever would be, and I'm sure it's all going to work
And that-
out. But in
that's
the long run, $50,000 for a 10-year plan or possible 15-year, if you break that down, and I'm not even a budget person, that's not a lot of money for what you're going to get out of the document.
Are we talking 50,000?
1 second,
a year or 50,000?
No, one time.
One time.
One time, so, yeah.
I think the mayor wants to say something. Mayor.
I think we feel very comfortable, year one, a communications person, $50,000 for a study, and 1 more employee. Next year,
It could be,
it would be 2 employees.
right.
From this point, it would be another employee. So years 2 through 10, or whatever, we would at least be able to fund those 2 extra employees from this May going forward, that we make that decision, and, or Cummings the money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm not sure when we have access to those.
right.
I think it's October 1st.
That's what we were told.
Yeah, it sounds,
October 1st it starts.
But I agree with Tessie,
No, well-
the short-term pain is worth the long-term gain,
Yeah,
so.
it really is.
I've
And-
got,
Okay, go ahead.
does this dovetail, and if so, how, with the current citywide master plan?
That's a great question.
Thank you, I
There's
pride myself.
some information in there, but it's not, I mean, if you've been to the meetings, most of the stuff in there is, now this one, I do have to admit, the company that Sal's using I think they realize that parks and people really value that stuff. And it is way more, if you want to call it park focused than the last company that the city used for a comp plan, which had basically nothing. So, but it does, I mean, they're not gonna go into detail on our staffing, and so a comp, like what Sal's doing, their comp master plan is, it touches some of these things, but not very much and not in very depth. It's not gonna tell us like financially, what conditions our parks are in and our facilities, and
Right.
staffing and stuff like that. They'll tell us, Sal's plan's gonna tell us, yeah, you need to think about adding this, like I don't know, baseball complex or whatever it may be, on this side of town, because that's where all the population's building houses and that type of thing like that. But this would be way more specific.
Okay.
And we would have options too on, if there's specific things you all want to see in the plan, that we can make sure that it's written into the bid document, that they focus on. Same thing with Darren, if he has specific, and the mayor and council.
Well, they'll have some open houses that, I mean, based on
Yeah.
what I've experienced in the past, where they invite the public to come in. So once again, you might get people like over in Phoenix in that area. That's where the rate of growth is going, and you encourage, and your council get, to come to these meetings to put forth their ideas and stuff. I'm just gonna go from the ones that we had paid for in the past to answer your question a little bit too, Gavin. It didn't, in the overall city plan, there might be 5 pages to the parks. You know what I mean? And that these are the number of parks you have, this is this. They might have 1 page of like, it would be good if you eliminated this, or if you added this, or it's very general. Where the park is very specific into just parks.
Okay.
And if you guys want, I have a copy of Parkville, Missouri's. They're a small river town in Kansas City on the Missouri River, very similar to Washington.
Just had a daughter married in Parkville, so.
Pardon?
I just had a daughter married in
Oh,
Parkville.
yeah.
I know exactly where you're talking.
My brother-in-law lives there, so I have theirs, and I have Chesterfield. So if you want to see what they look like, a final product looks like,
They're available online, too.
yeah, most
Yeah.
cities that do them put them online. So if you
I've looked
search,
at 'em, yeah.
probably most St. Louis area cities, you can find them online and print them and
Yeah.
look at them.
My question was, so you're looking for an employee now. That has nothing to do with the additional employee that we're looking for, let's say in October, once that, right? So that we
No,
won't.
these ones I'm short now have nothing to do with.
Okay, I just want to be sure that we're adding and
Yeah.
not just, okay.
And we're trying strategically to make that a better process also, so that's, let's look at that, but we
To
gotta
go-
we gotta change some things in order to make it more people, so.
Right.
To go back to your original question, no, I can tell you that what we were presented was the 2/3, 1/3, basically, just in rough math when I was writing it down off of a bulleted presentation that we've looked at so far. That is 2/3 park, 1/3 dispatch communication type stuff.
Right.
But we also have to see if the
That's a
number
whole-
we're basing that on will come to fruition.
Right,
It's kind
right.
of
I got it. I understand that.
walking with the cane right now, but we'll see.
We talked about that number, and with one dispensary right now, we're talking about, you're basically getting their yearly. rate.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was an issue that we had to be careful with that too.
Right.
The unknown, and when we do know what that entails, so I don't know.
We're not collecting from
Well,
multiple
yeah,
facilities. When
and
you
we don't
collect
need
from
to-
one, we can't ask what it is.
No, we don't need to know it publicly either. You just in the course of making decisions it does look
It seems like
good.
a large number to me, but that's what we're hearing from
Right.
everywhere is that it's a
Well, that's what they're saying on the news, but
Everything you read statewide, you know, the numbers are off the charts
That's what
as
they're
far as
saying.
revenue is concerned.
It was very high on Friday night, I can tell you.
Wonder if their sales increased this week.
Yeah.
I wanted to walk around and say, yeah.
So do you need a motion from us to support this master plan, or is it just a discussion and?
What I asked on Monday night was when Darren presented us doing the budget, that we want to do a Parks Master Plan, the Parks Department, or the Parks Board is in favor of this, and I said, the Park Board hasn't been made aware of this that I know of, and Wayne said it's on the agenda for tonight when I asked him, so.
I think
My
the-
angle there was, again, just like always, if it's parks related, you guys need to know about it before we vote on it at a council standpoint. You know, by me sitting here, Councilor Bear sitting here, knowing you guys are all in favor of this, makes my vote going forward.
Yeah, I think we should officially make a motion and so we're favoring this. And yes,
I will make that motion.
we have a motion by Gavin, second by Jeannie.
No.
So I remember your name.
That girl?
I'm sorry, who was the second? Bob? Bob Kay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. So thank you very much. Good report, Wayne, and thanks for your input, both of our city councilmen. It was very good input, so
Hey, I got a
And the
comment.
mayor.
I am glad you do.
A friend of mine, I'm sorry, do you need it now? A friend of mine who is on the Jefferson City Park Board came and we toured Washington's parks here about a month ago, and he was simply blown away by what we have here. And, you know, that Jeff City is supported by a 1% sales tax. You know, they have got the money, but what we have done with what we have just absolutely amazed him. Just wanted to pass that
Oh,
along.
that's cool. That's good to know.
Very good.
Jeff City has a 1% park tax.
It's either 1% or a half percent. Yeah,
Yeah. Columbia,
half's pretty decent.
Columbia has
We could take one,
0.25%.
fourth, I'd be happy with the fourth.
If they had a 1% tax, then we'd have, and that's, you're talking.
They got a beautiful new amphitheater.
And they gotta spend it. They gotta, I mean, maybe they saving up for something.
Yeah. Any other comments regarding the meeting or anything? Our next meeting, September the 13th, about an adjournment.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Bob D.
Second?
And second by Gavin. In favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Wayne, thanks for all your work
No problem.
and everything.
Okay. Going home for a glass of champagne.
Did you hear about